In the movie Close, it starts off with the blonde boy saying, "There, you hear something?" And he says, "Yeah, they're up there. There has to be at least 40 of them." So his friends to the top of the thing, and he says, "Are you crazy?" And then he goes, "3, we run." And now we see his brother Bren just want to run to his house for a sleepover. Once they get there, you can tell that they're really acquainted with his friend's mother, and the blonde boy starts even fanning her, and she said, "Yes, all I need is some more grapes." And how amazing would it be to be filthy rich? And he says, "Mom, I'm a good son." And she says, "Yes, most of the time." Blonde boy says he'll be his manager and they can go to the moon.
J'ai une idée. Je vais devenir ton manager.
He's showing his talent with the art, and even though he says it's actually beautiful, he shows it to him and it's all messed up. Remy, the brunette boy, can't sleep because his thoughts racing, and Leo, the blonde boy, starts to tell a story. Imagine you're a duckling, you just hatched, but you're special and you're beautiful, and one day you meet a gecko, and he tells you a riddle, and you think he's wacko, but he's also looks special. So you go with the gecko, and you guys find a trampoline and jump to the stars. And then he kind of blows air on him like he was doing to his mother earlier. When they get to the high school, they have to present while the other boys are more confident saying how they like sports or eating. They are a little bit nervous, and then the other boys notice how close they are, and girls even ask them about it. And when they ask if they're together, Leo gets really offended and he accuses them, "No, it's just because you guys do girly things, it doesn't mean y'all together." And they say, "We're just kidding. You're obviously just close brothers." And he said, "Yes, now let's leave it like that." Now he gets home, he doesn't even want a snack from his mom. And the next morning, when he wakes up, uh, he's spending more time with his family. And finally, for school on the next Monday, when Remy says ciao, he said, "How did you sleep?" He said, "All right." And now they're back to while he's trying to be kind of alone. When Remy tries to go and lay on him, he moves out the way and says it's too hot. And he just goes away. Being themselves and playing back home where they're more comfortable.
Attention. Wow, encore.
Then when he's talking about the concert sleepover, blows air on him. The mom is obviously enamored by her son being the star of the show, as well as Leo is really enjoying the music he's playing. Back at school, he gets pushed and called a queer by the other kids, but he tells them to shut up. And the other kids say they're the actual pansy. He asks if he would like to play hockey, and when he says, "I don't know," he says it's more of a yes or no question. He says a little more yes than no. Looking bored back at the hideout, not knowing quite what to do, Remy takes the lead and says, "Hey, you hear that?" Leo looks around kinda amused. No, he's like, "Seriously, there's gotta be surrounding us." He just asks,
Y'a rien?
"You gotta hear that." And then when Leo looks around, it says there's not actually anyone there. Now, Leo gets out of Remy's bed and makes his own on the ground. Looking kind of dazed, he wakes up to see Remy actually right beside him. And when Remy asks why is Leo attacking him, he said he doesn't know. And Remy says, "You know what? I want to attack you too. And when they're play fighting, they have fun at first. But then Leo kind of gets pissed off and starts actually pushing him back. And Remy goes into his own bed. Remy's mom stands at his door and for what seems like an unreasonably long amount of time tries to get him to come out because she doesn't want him in there. Now Remy says he can't eat due to a stomachache as he's visibly holding back tears at this point. On the bike ride, they don't talk at all. Eventually at school, Leo's wrapping up his hockey friends and he sits by Remy and says, "What's wrong? Is this because of me?" And when Remy doesn't say anything, he says, "Are you lying, Remy? Are you sure?" He says, "Okay." Now he's putting on his hockey pads and you can see that he's having his first practice. He's getting hit up a few times, but he still gets up. And Remy even comes and he starts putting his face to the window, which the other boys kind of cheer. Smiling mischievously, Remy says, "I can't be here." And Leo says, "Of course."
Je vais devenir ton manager.
On the way home, they ride back together and Remy asks if he likes it. Leo says, "Of course. Maybe I should give this a try. Why didn't you say anything?" And he says, "I don't know." Now Leo's biking with the guys who used to tease him, and Remy confronts him because that's the first time that he never waited for him to go to school. No, when Leo says he forgot, and that he starts to cry, and then he kind of says, don't cry," for a while, and then Remy starts shoving him and throws a punch. Without connecting, they get pulled away, and Remy continues to be in a terror, standing by his brother back at their home. It's very dusk, and now they're locker boxing. Leo's talking to his friends and notices Remy sitting with some new people. He does this again at class, but Remy doesn't really look back or seem too concerned. That's a close-up on his hands getting dirty from the combine moving around the crops. Now it's a field trip at the school beach, and Leo's running seems to be splashing with the other kids and wipes some water mist off his face. And then you can see him looking around for a second, and this is when he notices something isn't right. And on the bus, you can feel this presence or none there is really weighing on him. And when the assistant waves him to come, he asks his mom, "Is Remy in the hospital?" And she said, "Let's just go." And then he broke away. And when he sees the headlights of his mom, he gets off of his bike and he runs to Remy's house. He slaunders over to the door where he looks in, and that's where he sees Remy's locked door from earlier is busted open. Someone had to break in. His alarm beats and he turns it off and closes his eyes for a second. Now he puts on his stuff, and when his mom says eat something, he's not hungry. Then he drinks something and he wants to bike, but his mom said, "I'd rather you get a ride with your brother." Now at school, they're sharing their memories, and a girl is even crying, saying how Remy seemed like someone who was around with a bunch of different people. And when a boy starts to say this, he goes ballistic, like, "You didn't know he wasn't always happy all the time." And then his teacher comes up to Leo and says, if you want to know anything, ask me. And he asks who found him, and she says his mother. Throwing himself into a wall in hockey practice over and over. And his father puts his hand on him and says, we have to go. At the way he's walking along with a bunch of strangers, it seems, and notices Remy's mom at the front. Leo wants to know if Remy, his brother, half asleep, didn't know the answer, and he didn't know if he left a note either. Now as the seasons change, we can see the time has been passing, and there's a symphony from his band is playing a tribute to him. At hockey practice, he sees it. Remy's mom looking at him from the glass. This prompts him to slowly skate over. At this point, his mom asks him how he is and if that he remembered or said anything. No, and when she asks him for a ride, he walks away and says he'd rather fight. Finally recognizing that his friend is gone. Cops work, and this leads to him and his family riding over to Remy's family's for dinner, and the topic conversation gets on what Leo's brother is going to pursue after college, and him and his girlfriend would like to travel Europe. This makes Remy's dad tear up and cry. Is going over to Remy's house again, and the dog remembers him and he pets him. Mom asks if he wants any food. He said he'd just prefer water, and she said she'd have one too, and that if he can go to his room. And she asks him what happened, and then he walks away in the rain, and his mom has to grab him and dry him off because he doesn't want to take care of himself. This leads to a hockey tournament, breaks his wrist, and he cries at the hospital where Remy's mom works in the maternity ward, and she says, what do you want? I'm working. And how did you get here? And he said he took the bus, and when she's riding him home, he says it was my fault, and explains how he stopped talking to him and stuff. And now she chases him into the woods after she tells him to get out of her car, and he pulls out a wood and stick like a sword from the hideout, and then they embrace and the movie ends.